On today's episode of the Bubs and T Bag Show, Bubs has champagne dreams regarding his future Spotify payout.
Let's say we each get $13.
Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe save it, put it towards the show, reinvest it.
That's way too smart. I think we should have a period of splurging.
One quart of beer.
Right. You know what I mean?
And a pack of smokes.
T-Bag changes his podcast handle from T-Bag to T-Bone. He don't like the meat.
I'm going to go to San Francisco and do my thing.
Bubs sucks it up and plays hurt. Podcast before self.
It's got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
Right.
You got to keep it Spartan, you know, as they say, like a training regimen in Rocky IV.
All this and fun facts about the War of Northern Aggression coming up.
Thank you for being a friend. Drinking coffee with my Golden Girls cup. Doing it again. I think that was the Golden Girls intro, Bubs. From what I remember, that's about the only words I remember. But I love my Golden Girls coffee cup more than anything in these morning shows like this.
It sets up kind of a atmosphere, doesn't it?
It's a fantastic gift. Great pick on this one, buddy. It's one of my favorite pieces of crockery in my entire house.
Some of your favorite furniture that you own as a bachelor?
Yeah.
Is a coffee cup?
I don't have much of it. Yeah.
No.
Well, as you see behind us there, we have the two guest seats in the studio, and those are very high quality Walmart folding chairs. So once we hit it big, you know, we'll
Along
upgrade.
with the nice bin substituting as a coffee table.
Yep. Nothing but the best here for the fans at the Bubs and T Bag Show.
Well, there's roots. It's got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
Right.
You got to keep it Spartan, you
Yeah.
know, as they say, like a training regimen in Rocky IV.
A montage.
Yeah, when he goes up to the snowy, he trains in like Russia, I think, or something. I haven't seen it in a while.
Carrying logs and running
Yeah.
mountains. Yeah. Eye of the tiger.
You know what was good about the 80s was every movie had like really great songs in it. You know what I mean? Like it was really cliched.
Well done music.
Well done montages.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what?
What?
To get back to Jean-Claude Van Damme,
Oh, geez, you're still on JCVD's tip, huh?
I can't get off it.
No shit. What did you watch more?
No, when you said montages, they just did the classic 80s action film montages of training. You
Okay,
know,
yeah,
working
yeah.
a bag and
Yep.
doing kicks and all that stuff.
Yeah, and like the rock music in the background.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Okay, go ahead.
A friend of mine brought up an 80s movie to me the other day when we were having beers at a local watering hole. And he looked over at me and said, seriously, at one point, he goes, "You know what a really good movie is? Over the Top."
That's
Do you
Sly
even know what that
Stallone. It's arm wrestling.
An arm wrestling movie.
Yeah, it is good.
Where he also plays like a trucker,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And this guy's a trucker by trade. But the reason that he loves the movie isn't so much because of the movie. It's because of the Kenny Loggins music.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Kenny Loggins wrote,
Does he have a song called Over the Top?
well, no, it's like that. It's a popular song, but you wouldn't have any idea it was the theme song to Over the Top. The song was a bigger hit than the movie by far.
With Kenny Loggins, was he also in, didn't he have music in a couple other movies, right?
Like every movie from the 80s, he
Footloose? Was that him? Who
Footloose,
did Footloose?
Top Gun, Caddyshack.
Caddyshack.
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
right.
everything. Like
Yep.
the guy did, we're probably missing a lot too, but
I'm all right.
he did a second song in he had more than one in there. And the Over the Top movie though had, I think it's called like Meet Me Halfway. You know, like
Okay.
Meet Me Halfway. You know that one? It's like a ballad, power ballad, I guess you'd call it. But
Then you start thinking of only about like, what's the one with the puppets?
Team America.
Team America montages in there.
Yeah,
and
they
their
have
music.
the best. Yeah, a great love scene in that movie too, I might add.
Well, it depends which version you get. Right?
Yeah. I think they cut it out of the. I think they might have an unrated DVD or
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
where it's
Puppets making love and scatting on each other.
yeah, peeing, everything,
Scat.
pooping, yeah, the whole deal.
Well, you know what it's called. It's called scatting.
It's that's the fetish name for it, I believe, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Not that I've ever internet searched it or anything like that, but
No.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
In your travels, you've been aware of scatting.
People come across those things when they're looking for other things on the internet.
You're just trying to buy a clear plate.
That's it.
And
Right.
a whole set, and then this
Yeah.
takes you down a rabbit hole of
Yeah.
other things that
Yeah.
you could put on that clear plate.
If you search for certain things now on most search engines, if it has the word black in it or something like that,
Okay.
you're not going to get anything that you thought.
All right.
It's going to be
It's not black shelving.
nope.
All right.
No, it's really I got to say, Bubs, porno has really like gotten out of control, I think, in this country. Like it's fucked up a lot of young people.
You don't think it's been out of control in Germany?
It's probably been very out of control. Isn't Germany sort of the biggest purveyors of the scat scene?
I don't know. It could be Hungarians or something might have a subset.
I just don't remember it being this bad.
Maybe you're getting older and, kind of like disgusted by
Yeah, naturally.
your filthiness.
Yeah.
You don't have a kit hidden somewhere?
Mm-mm.
Or a little stash?
No.
All right.
Not that I could think of.
All right.
If I need to access exciting things, I just go into the old brain bank upstairs and remember back to 2004 or the glory years.
The glory years. Bring it back. Welcome back.
Back in 82. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, have you heard the good news?
Christ is risen?
He is risen.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just had an Easter
It was great.
with blasphemous.
Can you believe that?
Mm.
Can you believe what the president said about that?
Yeah, well, they're the fabric of our society, I think was his quote on Friday.
And they're so brave and stunning
Yes. That is,
and courageous. They're so courageous that we need to, kind of still give them a boost. That's how courageous they are.
how many Christians are in this country?
I would guess 200 million, maybe. I mean, maybe more. I don't know.
Trans-binary visibility day, how many are there?
Legitimate.
Yeah.
Someone
Real
who is
ones.
legitimately living. I'm a transact like
Adults.
I don't know, 100,000 at most. I mean, maybe, probably not even that. 50,000. I don't know. Beats me.
I don't know.
Don't care either.
Easter eggs kind of have a new definition.
Yeah, really.
Where do you tuck them?
You're on fire today with that espresso. For those of you listening, Easter was very recently, and President Joe Biden declared March 31st Transgender Day of Visibility.
You think they do it like on a Wednesday or
Yeah.
something? Why the 31st on a Sunday of Easter?
So the people
always
that
this?
support the president will come back. This will be their argument. Trans Day of Visibility has been on the 31st of March for the last 3 or 4 years, blah, blah, blah,
Okay.
blah, blah.
All right.
He made a real effort to,
Not
Really-
not on April Fool's Day.
no. Unfortunately, he didn't do that. It would have been hilarious if it was.
Yeah, maybe the official White House Easter Bunny can come out dressed in some sort of trans outfit.
Yeah. Tucking his unit between and,
His carrot.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really know about this until I saw it being blasted all over Twitter the last few days. I guess to me, does it bother me? Sure it does a little bit, but not like, I'm used to it by now, which scares me because I think that's what they want. They want people used to it so you don't get up and protest.
Yeah, it's tiny little cuts.
I believe they call that in China the death by 1,000 cuts.
Speaking of China, I was at a music shop on Saturday, and I talked to a cat that's friends with my youngest son, and he's going to Japan. So I call him the Music Connection Samurai.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's going there to study a little bit from college for I think 2 weeks, and then coming back, and he wants to go live there eventually.
Is he Caucasian?
Yeah.
They'd probably accept him a little bit over there. But I do see videos of people that aren't Japanese that are over there making videos. There's one guy named Johnny Somali or something like that. He just goes over there and makes videos and puts them on TikTok and then gets arrested.
Oh. Well, their
And then it's
culture's
kind of going
closed.
like, hey, what the fuck is that? And it's like, dude, are you kidding me? Those people have lived on that island for thousands of years. And that's the only people who live there.
Yeah.
You ever seen the Japanese people going to work?
Mm-hmm.
They all walk on one side of the street, very orderly. they keep their culture very close, I think.
Waiting for the next sun to rise.
I think so.
All right.
I wouldn't
Biding their time.
I wouldn't want to fight those guys, man.
No, not how they were back in World War II.
What was that called? Unit 271 or something like that?
What was that unit?
Well, the Japanese supposedly had a very robust system in place of experimenting on human beings during the war. A lot of them were prisoners of war.
Joseph Mengele style thing.
I'm not trying to minimize anything that anyone did in World War II or anything like that, but it sounds like, from what I've seen, the Japanese put him to shame.
Wow.
You know, I thought it was called Unit 217 or 271.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's something we should look into on a future show. But the U.S., after they nuclear bombed them twice and then accepted their surrender, eventually got a hold of people who took part in that program. And I believe they punished these people in some ways, but I think they also wanted to get a look at just what they had discovered, you know, like these are types of experiments that, you know, will never be done again.
Does North Face or something use the technology that they discovered to sell some items or something?
I wouldn't doubt it.
You know,
somewhere along
look
the
at
line.
all those German companies that became wealthy due to the war effort.
Volkswagen.
Bosch.
Yeah, was Bosch a maker of German armaments or something like that?
Yeah.
Bosch is still around.
Well, yeah, I have a dishwasher that's a Bosch.
Volkswagen.
Yeah, they're still around. There's a lot of companies.
You got a Bosch dishwasher, huh?
Yeah, it's very quiet.
What else does it do?
Releases.
Yeah, can you?
What is it? Xylon.
Zyklon.
Yeah, Zyklon B.
The dishwasher doubles as a delousing chamber.
A shower.
Oh dear, what's happening?
Well, on a lighter note, I look over your shoulder and I gaze upon a nice rock feature for the month of March, which is a penis.
Why don't we tip it over since we're no longer in March anymore?
Yeah, let's go.
Hang on, let me.
What does April look like? What are we going to be surprised with?
Let's take a look here, quick.
I mean, that one has a nice artwork.
Yeah, we're for you guys listening, we're going to flip the calendar of dick pics in nature that Bubs brought for the studio here, and we're going to flip it to the month of April.
I'm surprised you don't highlight when we do the shows. Oh, that's a nice one. That's a chode.
Oh. Now that one is really my speed, buddy.
Yeah.
That's a
thick
stubby rock formation of granite or something like that. Impressive.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, spring is upon us.
I think there's an eclipse at some point this month too, isn't there, coming up?
8th?
Something like that. It's supposed to be a pretty cool one.
And I don't think we're going to get much of it. I think it's a southern swath of the United States that's going to get hit by it. Can watch it.
One of the girls I work with mentioned to me last night before I closed up shop that she was going camping somewhere down south to view the eclipse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, people really travel for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'd look out the window if the timing was right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out of my way. But it's cool.
I probably wouldn't do it either.
Are there doomsdayers and naysayers saying that the end of the world is nigh?
I think there probably always are with stuff like that.
Is there going to be a group dressed in nice little athletic suits that shed their containers? Their meat containers?
The Heaven's Gate, isn't that who that was?
Those are some creepy videos.
The guy's name, I think, was Marshall Applewhite. I think that was his name. He was the leader. He was kind of this old, like, skinny guy.
Wasn't it or what was it, Haley Bob?
The Hale Bopp comet from like the late 90s.
Yeah.
I remember that was one of the only comets I remember seeing. You could see it with the naked eye.
Yeah.
And those guys thought they were going to go aboard it. And then right before they went aboard it, they took off their shoes and laid down in their beds and put like a flag over their heads or like some special
napkin
flag
or something.
Yeah.
With a seal or something on it.
And then they chased it, with a handful of barbiturates and a few shots of Maker's Mark. And next thing you know, they're on board the Comet. I think there were several of them that killed themselves.
Yeah, they were all in like some weird cult compound.
Probably
a dozen or something.
Yeah, I think the name was Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
And then when you looked into it too, of course, every person there at one point had funneled all of their money into this guy's bank account.
Yeah.
But the guy he went out with them. He went out with them. He was like a Jim Jones.
Yeah. True believer.
Bizarre.
I don't know.
Do you remember when Jonestown happened?
I remember as a kid seeing coverage of it because it was so shocking to me at whatever age I was.
Yeah.
To see just,
all
on the news.
Bodies everywhere.
Evening news, yeah. And they show them that. And then the jungle. And I believe a reporter got killed trying to get on a plane.
A congressman too.
Yeah, that's what it was. And I remember that news stuff and footage from that.
You can see the there's a small amount of footage too that is being shot. Like I think a cameraman, a reporter, a congressman, and maybe like one other person were killed. Several more were wounded. And then obviously the suicides after that. But yeah, they went down there to check and see, hey, is this thing on the up and up or what? Because they had to fly all the way to Guyana or something.
Yep. Jim Jones.
Bizarre story. Have you ever listened to the tape?
Yeah, but it was a long time ago. It's an eerie tape where he's just probably speaking into the microphone of the cassette player. It's reel to reel.
It's like 45 minutes. I've listened to what's released of it. I don't know if there's other parts that aren't in the public sort of hands or not, but it's bizarre because he's sitting there talking about how everybody's, they're going to come and take us now and stuff like that. So we have to, commit to this. He's not really going out and saying exactly what's going to happen, but cult members are coming up and taking the microphone as well and going up and they all call him Dad.
Oh.
And they're like, yes, Dad, I agree. And that's why we need to do this, because if they come here, they're going to take our kids and they're just going to turn them into dummies. That was the thing they always said was these were communists too. Jim Jones was a
socialist,
yep,
Marxist.
He was very much a communist.
Okay.
Like he was also very much a weirdo too, but he took it to the next level. And these people were committed to this sort of revolutionary act of communism to the point where they were taking all their life savings and writing letters to like the Soviet consulate. They wanted to go there. And the Soviets said no. So this was kind of their last thing where, okay, once they killed themselves by drinking the Kool-Aid, literally drinking the Kool-Aid, which had cyanide in it, a lot of them left, I think the total was a little over $1 million all told. They just sent it right to the Soviet Union.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Bizarre stuff, these cults. And it seems like the more unstable the world gets, the more those kind of things pop up. So I don't know. There's probably a weird one out there somewhere growing right now. Maybe one in here in Minnesota even.
Well, there's some creeps. I
Yeah.
think there was a guy that kind of had a little following up in Pine City.
No kidding.
Who ended up running down to South America somewhere, and he was molesting girls.
I do remember that. Yeah.
That was probably a couple of years ago.
I think they ended up bringing him back too and put him in prison now.
Yep.
But
he had a little compound of honeys and just, man, these guys must just be so powerful at just manipulating emotion. And
I think that's what it is. They have, like a real quality, like a Manson kind of a quality.
I don't know. I watched a lot of Manson interviews back in the day in the 80s because his story was so big and relevant. Helter Skelter in that book and all that.
That's a great book, man.
And then you have one of the females that was out on parole takes a pop shot at Ford.
At Ford. Yeah, that was Squeaky Fromme.
Yeah. I mean, they were true believers almost to the end.
I've read a lot about that sort of case, and Helter Skelter, as far as a true crime book, is about as good as it gets. For me, Vince Bugliosi, the prosecutor who basically put those people away, wrote it. A lot of people have kind of been critical later, saying, "Well, this is Bugliosi's version."
Yeah,
where they leaned like heavily on the Beatles' White Album with here's how Charlie kind of got into their heads, like. Bugliosi painted a great picture, for the jury and got him convicted. Whether or not he was really that tied into the White Album, I have no idea.
Did it help with sales?
It's the best-selling Beatles album of all time.
Yeah,
Probably didn't hurt,
Probably didn't hurt. What's this album telling me? Race Wars, wasn't that supposedly?
Yeah,
like
Helter Skelter, the song on there was a big one for them, to the point where they were kind of like using it to write graffiti. All over the compound. And then the thing that kind of sunk them was they were writing graffiti at the murder scenes. And one of them was Helter Skelter. And then they murdered another couple a few nights later. And I think Helter Skelter might have been written there too. Oh. And eventually they kind of connected the dots. The cops didn't have the greatest sort of communication between each other. I think one was LAPD and the other was the sheriff's department.
Sure.
So they weren't really giving information back and forth. But eventually they pieced it together, and it led them to Manson's place, where at the time they thought it was just a bunch of hippies that were like stealing cars and shit like that. But it was a lot more.
There's some real, I don't know, I watched something on Netflix, some docuseries on Son of Sam, and how that Berkowitz was really not acting alone, and how there had to be one or two other killers involved.
For Son of Sam?
Yeah, and then one of these guys that he was associated with ended up murdered in North Dakota.
No shit.
Yeah,
I've never heard about any of that.
And Sam is the dad of somebody's, of a couple friends that Berkowitz hung out with. It's not his dog.
Really?
Yeah, this is according to this Netflix thing, but they were a part of this offshoot, I think, of Scientology called The Process. Some guy started his own thing in the 60s.
The Process.
Yeah, and it was dark. But there's some inclinations that there was like a network. And then Manson, they kind of loosely throw Manson in because he met some guy in the process.
Really?
Out in California.
No shit.
Yeah, supposedly. I don't know if this is true or not, but they make these arguments. And then like MK Ultra for Manson, spent all that time in prison.
That I sort of believe a little bit. I think the CIA had a great deal. I mean, there's documents where they were experimenting with LSD on soldiers and academics. Ted Kaczynski got dosed with it a few times when he was at Berkeley. It makes sense. That's kind of where the stuff exploded from, you know? In 67 probably is when it really hit the public eye.
Yeah.
And Manson really took advantage of that to the point where I read a kind of anecdote. Manson was, at the time, recently released from prison. His whole deal was, I'm going to go to San Francisco and do my thing. And then he realized...
Get out on the scene and hate Ashbury.
Yep. Once he was there, though, he realized these psychedelics were kind of a thing. And I think he realized how you could manipulate people, especially women, and kind of make suggestions that they might go along with when you're under the influence of these psychedelics. It kind of worked. A lot of them were young women. He would find them and...
Weren't some of them like dropouts of Ivy League schools?
A lot of them were.
Yeah.
A lot of them came from nice families.
Yeah.
But, 16, 17, I don't want to live at home. I want to be in California. Here's how effective the dude was. I always thought this was funny. Some girl in there ran away, joins Manson and the family on his bus. The girl's dad finds out about it, and he's livid, obviously. So he goes to find Manson, finds him. I don't think he was ready to kill him necessarily, but he was, hey, mother effer, I'm going to take my daughter back, blah, blah, blah. Within a couple weeks, that guy was in the family.
What?
Yeah, he was taking acid, and
really,
he was a part of the family.
Wow.
Yep. That's how influential the guy was, to people during that time. His real name is Charles Willis Manson. Mm-hmm. He would shorten that to like the syllables to say Charles Will is man's son.
Oh.
Meaning man's son is the son of man / Jesus.
Okay.
So these guys always at some point shift gears and start telling their people that they're Jesus. It's weird.
Yeah. It's good to be a savior.
Yeah.
Because then you got some divine right and divine intervention.
Yeah, I guess you can kind of write the rules then at that point.
Yeah, I'm talking to God. God says we should start a race war.
There's still a couple of women, too, who are alive, and they're still brainwashed by the guy. I believe one is Sandra Good, and I think the other is Squeaky Frome. They're both still alive.
Are they really?
Yep.
Oh, one of them died a few years ago. Well, Ann Manson, he's dead, right?
Yep, he died a few years ago. I believe Leslie Van Houten was released from prison. She was one of the main ones. I think she was at both murders. Susan Atkins, also known as Sadie.
Yeah.
She died in prison of like brain cancer. She was kind of the main one for the women. The main guy who everyone kind of neglects to...
Is that Tex?
Yeah, Tex Watson.
Yeah.
That dude basically did everything.
Yeah.
Manson was never even in the house on the Sharon Tate one, I don't think. But he showed up the next night to I think it was the La Bianca house, and helped tie the people up. And then he left. So he's guilty there. He obviously ordered these people to do it, but Tex Watson supposedly is the guy who...
Did the dirty work?
Yeah, got his hands dirty. Went in, was a savage.
And then whatever happened to him?
He's still in prison. Oh, yeah. He's still in prison, and he's still trying to get out on parole. He has websites. If you read it, it's really bizarre. He's a born-again Christian, he claims. He still, though, when you read his parole transcripts, like he doesn't totally take responsibility for it, kind of.
Yeah. Wow.
Really weird. A lot of problems in that man's life, I think.
Yeah, they should have just killed Manson right away, executed him.
All those guys were, him and Tex were both
There was no
sentenced to the
execution,
gas chamber.
but they got rid of it in California.
They did shortly, like in between
Yeah.
conviction and waiting to gas them. Can you believe California had the gas chamber?
Well, it was a Republican.
I think they still
state.
have. I think
It
they
was
still
a
have it.
Republican state.
Boy, I bet they wouldn't use that thing in a million years nowadays.
Well, they might use it on people they oppose politically.
Like me and you.
Well, maybe. We're out here in the hinterlands. We're okay.
I heard that Gavin Newsom's gunning for us, Bubs.
Yes,
He
wants a
doesn't
piece of
like
this.
the show. Yeah,
Yeah.
he said that you've made a few comments on the last one in particular that really unnerve him.
Really touched
Yeah.
a nerve.
You did.
Yeah.
So watch out for that guy.
Was he in his dress? Well, he gave
Something's
those critiques.
odd. That
Yeah.
guy looks like Satan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's Damien.
He really
From
is.
Yeoman.
He's too like slick.
Yeah. What was the family name? Thorn.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was.
Yep. He's a thorn.
I've never been to California myself. Wouldn't mind going someday. My dad used to live there in the 70s. He has really, really fond memories of it, but it scares me what I see there now. I mean, California, in my opinion, was kind of the golden state. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It doesn't feel that way now. Are there any good Californians left out there?
Well, I got family out there.
Do you really?
Oh yeah.
No shit.
So some Huntington Beach relatives, and they've been there forever and ever and ever. And
They love it.
well, they're still there. You
Yeah.
know, and they raised their kids there, and kids have graduated from high school and moved on. And you know, you go to a high school that's not too far from the beach.
Man, that's got to be cool.
That Orange County,
Yeah.
I think they have maybe a different life.
Well, they don't have any damn snow.
They don't have snow, and it's always 78 and sunny.
Yeah.
Maybe
The
a
girls are
little smog.
hot if you're into.
California girls,
Yep.
fellas all work out if you're into that. Swimmers builds.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people are into the fellas out there nowadays.
Well, yeah.
Probably even a lot of the fellas.
Even the fellas are into
Yeah.
fellas. But no, I don't know. When I don't know. I was thinking of Escape from New York and Kurt Russell.
Yeah?
Yeah,
How come?
I don't know. 80s movie,
Yeah.
right?
California boy.
Yeah.
Golden haired Kurt Russell.
And he was in TV shows in the 60s, and
See, that was before my time, but I always heard he was a child actor.
yeah, he was. So
Like-
you wonder what he's seen.
I bet everything.
Oh my God, yeah. And he was married to Goldie Hawn forever,
I think
or they were.
I think
just-
I think they're still together. You
Not
know,
married, but
yeah, they've
together.
been together for like 50 years or something.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell, man. Who doesn't like Kurt Russell? Is there anyone who doesn't like? I bet even like liberal communists somehow like Kurt Russell, even though supposedly he's kind of like center / quote unquote right wing by California standards.
He's probably just normal. Well,
Yeah.
how do you be normal if you grow up in Hollywood?
Well, maybe he's just a real resilient, level headed guy. I don't know. But do you know anyone who doesn't like Kurt Russell? That's like, fuck that. I hate Kurt Russell.
Fuck Kurt Russell.
Yeah, I don't think that person exists.
No, I
Maybe he
don't think
does.
so. No.
He's got some great movies, man. I watched some stuff recently from him when it was snowing last week. I locked myself in the house for a day. It's one of my favorite things to do if I'm off that day or that night, and I was. Thanks to number one Gary / Mr. Entertainment, he gifted me a Netflix account for the next year, for,
Nice.
like pretty cheap. Because I told him, man, it's snowing. I want to watch the Hateful Eight extended version, but I can't because I don't have Netflix anymore. They took my bootleg privileges away. He goes, I got you covered, buddy. Sends me like a code or something. I filled a few things out. Next thing you know, I'm watching Hateful Eight, the extended version. Thanks to Gary, Mr. Entertainment. Thank you again, sir. Appreciate that. And then I had a great time watching that movie. It's one of my favorites. It's kind of based, or it takes homage in parts to the movie The Thing.
Another Kurt Russell.
One of my favorite films. Yeah,
Mhm.
The Thing. I think it was 1980. He's got a bunch of great lines. Really holds a movie together. I just want to go up to my shack and get drunk. It's a bunch of guys stranded in Antarctica
Yeah.
trying to figure out which one of them is an alien. And Hateful Eight is kind of the same thing. They're trying to figure out which one is kind of the murderer, so to
Mhm.
speak. They're trapped in a cabin during a blizzard. But for those of you who haven't seen Hateful Eight, I highly recommend it. Kind of a post-Civil War era, I don't know, thriller in a way. But it's Tarantino, so it's got a lot of just different shit.
Samuel L. Jackson, right?
He's great in it, man.
Yeah.
Bruce Dern, is in it for a little bit.
He's always good.
Yeah. Great movie, though, Hateful Eight. I got to bring this one up because we talked about it, I think, a couple shows ago, and this is like one of the American Farmer's favorite movies is Bone Tomahawk, which, have you seen it?
No, I have not.
All right, if you get a chance, check it out because it's a Western, but by the end of it, you're going, what in the fuck did I just see?
And it's created by the same guy that movie we discussed.
The Brawl in Cell Block 99 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it just gets dark and dark and dark. Is it shot B style too? B movie
No,
format?
not as much like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put it this way: it feels like a real Western, all the way up until probably like the last, I don't know, hour or so, and it gets a bit bizarre. I don't want to ruin it for a lot of people. It's still somewhat of a modern movie, so I'm not going to give too much away. But boy, there is a scene towards the end, brother, it ain't good. And one of these sort of crazy
Is
natives,
it violent?
yeah, it's
gory?
extremely violent, terrifying, I guess I would say. Is it a good movie? Yes. Is it for everyone? Absolutely not. But Kurt Russell, like every movie he's in, pretty much holds the whole thing together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, plays a great lawman with a huge mustache and the whole deal. A lot like he kind of did in Hateful Eight. It probably wasn't much of a stretch for the guy.
Wasn't he in Tombstone?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean,
Wyatt
a
Earp?
lot of people say it's maybe the greatest Western, you know, in
gotta
the
be up
modern
there.
era. You know,
Besides The Unforgiven.
that's probably it for me.
Yeah.
That or Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I like that one a lot. Tombstone's got a great ensemble. You know, Val Kilmer obviously is what everybody really remembers, but Michael Biehn, Powers Booth, yeah, those guys were great.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a
Who
while.
played Johnny Ringo?
One of my favorite actors of all time, Michael Biehn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's who that is. All right.
That's a guy too who that guy should have been bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even he admits it. And I've listened to some of his interviews, and I think the reason he wasn't is because he doesn't have a problem telling people to fuck off, including maybe people that are employing him. And maybe that held him back a little bit. But listening to him in interviews is somewhat refreshing. I don't think the guy takes any bullshit. And it might have hampered his career a tiny bit here and there. He also said he had a pretty big drinking problem for years and years and years, but probably who doesn't in Hollywood?
They all have some kind of problem.
But man, him in Tombstone as Johnny Ringo, and then my favorite of him, maybe my favorite character in any movie, is when he plays Hicks in Aliens.
Oh, wow.
He was the best in that movie. I mean, just kind of this quiet sort of hero dude.
Space Marine, right?
Yeah.
Is that what they were?
He's one of the few ones that kind of survives with Sigourney Weaver. Corporal Hicks in Aliens, it doesn't get any better for me.
Okay.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
All right. Well, we've gone from Kurt Russell
to Michael Biehn.
Michael Biehn. Pretty soon we'll be back to Barry Lyndon.
I like Kurt Russell. I like The Thing. I like Escape from New York. It's really hard for me to find a movie that the guy hasn't excelled in. Which other ones am I mean, Escape.
Overboard.
Yeah. That was with Goldie Hawn, wasn't it?
That was actually kind of a funny movie.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. Well written.
Wasn't he also Captain Ron?
Captain Ron was a good one.
Captain Ron.
Yeah. Arr.
Oh, man. That guy's got a interesting life. He had a moment.
Wasn't he in one of those most recent Marvel space with Brad? What's that guy? Pratt.
Oh, Chris
Galaxy?
Pratt. Yeah.
Chris Pratt, yeah.
I heard he was, but I don't watch that stuff really myself.
He's in there.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell's in there.
I believe it. There
In
he's,
the second one,
he's
yeah.
cashing a paycheck there, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw him in something. Oh, he's got a kind of a smallerish part in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, another Tarantino movie.
Well, that was about the Manson,
Yeah,
loosely.
yeah, kind of loosely. They do show Charles Manson in it for about 5 seconds, but he's not part of the real movie. It's more just kind of what's happening in
Isn't
Hollywood
it the
around that
stunt
time.
guy and some actor?
Brad Pitt plays a stunt guy who's not real, but he's probably a conglomerate of a lot of stunt guys at that time. Kurt Russell plays a stunt coordinator on the set of a TV show that I'm not familiar with called The Green Hornet.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever watch it?
I've seen it, yeah.
There's a scene where
That's where Bruce Lee was in it.
yeah, There's a scene where Brad Pitt beats the shit out of Bruce Lee
Oh, wow.
when they're standing, kind of waiting around for the, production to get going, and they're just kind of smoking and joking type thing. But Brad Pitt beats him up.
Mm.
A lot of Asian people in Hollywood, like critical types, were like, "Hey, that's bullshit. You know,
that never happened.
You're besmirching Bruce Lee."
Yeah.
I'm sure Tarantino's like, "Shut up, it's a fucking movie."
Yeah, it's fiction.
Yeah, at the end of it, we killed the entire Manson family too.
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
So there was justice.
Yeah. Man, I wish I was Kurt Russell.
Yeah, I bet.
All right, let's check his filmography here, Bubs. Starting in the 70s, I'm not recognizing much of this. The Barefoot Executive, Fool's Parade, Now You See Him, Now You Don't. Charlie and the Angel. Ooh, here's a good one. In 1973, he was in a movie called Super Dad.
Oh,
Guess who starred in that?
I don't know.
Our favorite man, Bob Crane.
Oh boy,
That was the one where that was the one where kind of sent him downhill.
Okay.
Like they gave him Super Dad. He thought it was going to be a, kind of a springboard back to popularity. And it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It barely even got released, I guess.
So Kurt Russell was probably a teenager.
Yeah, because he was born in 51, so he was 22 at the time.
All right.
The Strongest Man in the World. The Deadly Tower. The Captive, The Longest Drive 2. Used Cars. Okay, now we're getting into stuff that I remember. That was a comedy in 1980. Escape from New York. The Fox and the Hound. Okay.
That was a cartoon.
Was it?
Yeah.
The Thing.
Yep.
Silkwood, which that was like
Cher.
I
think Cher's in that.
that or Meryl Streep maybe. Yeah, Meryl Streep and Cher.
Thank you.
Nice call, Bubs.
Yeah.
Swing Shift, The Mean Season, The Best of Times, Big Trouble in Little China.
I remember that one.
Great movie.
Yeah.
That's a John Carpenter, I believe. Also did Escape from New York and The Thing. Overboard, Tequila Sunrise.
That's Captain Ron. Is that Tequila Sunrise? No, Tequila Sunrise was like a love thriller.
Probably.
Yeah.
Captain Ron's a few years later. Tango and Cash.
Oh yeah, was that Sly?
Stallone.
Yeah. And they're that was
Great
like a
buddy.
monster
It's like
truck.
a buddy cop movie.
Yeah, and they were always trying out who's got the bigger dick.
Yeah. Backdraft. They don't make movies like that anymore.
Backdraft. That was a good one.
Yeah. Backdraft. I bet every firefighter in the 90s must have just gone nuts for that movie.
Yeah.
92, Unlawful Entry, Captain Ron. 93, Tombstone.
Well, it's that old.
94, there's a scene in the movie Forrest Gump where Forrest learns how to kind of dance or whatever from a person who's staying at his mom's bed and breakfast. And that person is a very young Elvis Presley.
Yeah, that's right.
He shows Forrest how to dance or move his hips or swing his feet even with his little crutches on. The voice of Elvis in that movie is Kurt Russell. Not a lot of people know that. Stargate.
That was a good one.
Here's another good one that a lot of people have forgotten. I saw this the night before I took my ACT test with my dad at the Mall of America movie theater. Executive Decision. You ever see that one?
I'm sure I have. I've probably seen all these.
Fantastic action movie that kind of goes by the book, but it's done very well. And a great part about it is Steven Seagal is in it, and he dies within the first 20 minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah. Gets sucked out of a fucking airplane.
Oh, okay. Is this where there's SEALs or something?
Yeah, they're like a high-speed military, like Tier 1 type group. And they take what looks like an F-117 Nighthawk all the way up to a plane that, like a 747 that's been hijacked.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
And then there's like a sleeve that goes up and attaches to the bottom of the plane, and the guys climb into it and board the plane without anyone knowing. And then it's their job to sort of take the plane back.
What was the Kurt Russell movie where he's like a soldier?
Universal Soldier. Oh, no.
No, he was a soldier that was like programmed to be a soldier, like a Spartan.
Yep. That's a couple years later, and the movie's just called Soldier.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
Yep. 3,000 Miles to Graceland.
Yeah, I saw that. It was just kind of odd.
I believe that has Mickey Rourke and Kevin Costner in it.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into the 2000s. Vanilla Sky. I think I saw it once.
That's with
Tom Cruise, our boy.
Tom.
Our boy.
Throwing a shout out to Tom Cruise.
Yep. 2002, he stars in a movie that's pretty good called Dark Blue.
I don't remember that one.
Worth a watch. I honestly think the guy kind of probably should have gotten a nomination for it. It takes place during the LA riots and he plays a cop that doesn't exactly do things by the book.
Oh, all right.
But it's done. It's well made. It's worth a watch for Kurt Russell alone. 2004, he has probably his most memorable role in recent memory, and a lot of people thought he got robbed of this one. I agree. 2004, he stars in Miracle as Herb Brooks.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially for anybody that grew up here.
He was really good in that.
Yeah, Minnesota.
That's hockey. That's how you do it.
Speaking of hockey, the Gophers lost over the weekend.
No.
Yep.
Bummer.
BU.
They're done,
The Terriers beat them. Yeah, so they're not going to the Frozen Four.
They shit the bed.
They shit the bed.
Fuck.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't keep up.
Well, classic Minnesota, you know?
Well, they've won some titles over the years.
Yeah, it's been 20 years, but yeah. These other movies I'm not really know. Okay, 2007, he's in one, maybe his first Tarantino movie, Death Proof.
Oh, he did those Grindhouse
That
movies.
that was the car movie where it's like a big car. The whole movie is a car chase, basically.
Yeah. What's the one where the girl has the gun on her leg?
That's one of my favorite. That one's called Planet Terror.
Yeah, that's one of those Grindhouse ones.
Man, we should double up on that for Halloween next year.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, then we get into, he was in Furious 7. I didn't know that. I guess that's a Fast and Furious movie. Then in 2015, he stars in the two movies we just talked about, Bone Tomahawk and The Hateful Eight. Some more Fast and Furious stuff. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now he's kind of doing some Christmas stuff. Man, the guy got around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He really
He's
did
had a life. He's had a charmed life.
He's really given a lot of people some entertainment.
You know who passed away, I think, recently was it Louis Gossett Jr.?
Yeah, I heard that last week.
You know what's a good movie is Officer and a Gentleman.
Never seen it.
What? He plays a DI.
I heard that.
Yeah.
He's a very tough.
Richard Gere is the officer candidate.
Okay, so it's officer candidate school thing?
Yeah.
And Lou Gossett's really lays into him?
Oh, it's good.
Is it?
Yeah,
Like Full Metal Jacket good?
No, it's not. But it's kind of, that had to be late 70s, early 80s movie.
My brother went to that school at one point.
Yeah.
When he was becoming a pilot. He said they were really hard on, like, you know, it almost even more so than basic, because they know that you're going to be leading people kind of in a way.
Well, leading people, but also in charge of $1 million pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good movie. It's a love story.
Would you recommend it?
Yeah, for sure.
You're telling me to go and watch a love story.
Yeah.
Who's the woman in it?
You'd recognize her.
Deborah Winger?
Maybe, yeah.
There's
a couple actors in there and actresses you'd recognize. Deborah Winger could be in it, yeah. She kind of went off the deep end, too, though, didn't she?
It is Deborah Winger.
Yeah. No, you'd like it. It's a good story.
Will I like Richard Gere in it?
Yeah, he's fine. He does a good job.
You remember his rumors?
Yes. It's an odd rumor to have isn't he a Buddhist or something?
I don't know much about Gere, but I do know about the rumors, I guess, so to speak. And
it's an odd rumor to have. What, did Larry Flynn start that or something?
Is that something?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know. Where did it? I just remember hearing it.
The
like,
rumor.
What?
The rumor is back in the day, Richard Gere was like admitted to the emergency room or something.
Yeah,
because he had a gerbil in his butt because he was playing
Tiddlywinks. Was the
sort
gerbil's
of
name
game.
Tiddlywinks?
No, it was Lemmy Winks.
Lemmy Winks. That's right.
From South Park. Yeah.
Yep. Kind of a movie day.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You know, we're shooting from the hip a little bit today, coming off of Transgender Awareness Day.
Visibility.
Yeah. I personally am, looking forward to the week and looking forward to things melting.
Yeah, it's going to get up into the 60s next week or
Let's
later
hope so.
this week.
I got some projects I got to do here.
I do too. I got to get rolling and tumbling.
Man, I've been cleaner living a little bit since that psychedelic experience I told you about. I wouldn't say I've been clean living, but cleaner. Not eating as much junk food. Definitely enjoying things in moderation.
Good idea. Including moderation.
Yeah. Doing my push-ups daily is really a thing. I'm cracking out 100.
100 a day?
4 sets of 25, basically spread throughout the day. And I got to say, Bubs, when I first started about a month ago,
it's embarrassing.
At my weight, it was tough getting 10 out.
Yeah. Well, you know what? it's amazing in 2 weeks how quickly you can.
Really is, isn't it?
Just got to give yourself 2 weeks.
Yep. And the strength comes back.
Strength.
Yeah.
Come off strength.
I work on my strength all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know I'm swole.
Yeah, you is.
The push-ups though, Bubs, that's like kind of the all-around exercise.
I'd say that. And if you could get into some fucking pull-ups.
Into the core.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I should try the pull-ups.
Well, how many variants of push-ups are there?
A lot.
Unlimited.
I bet like
Unlimited.
Hundreds probably.
Yeah. I mean, you can sit down and figure out 4 different kinds to do, and you're going to be great.
Air squats too.
Yep.
I do those.
Good idea.
I've been doing them in the booth at work.
Yeah. Just to move the body.
What are you going to do this summer? Anything?
Tan.
Yeah.
Sunbathe. No,
You missing the sun?
Yeah, I miss it. Yeah, I was soaking in it
I can tell.
just a couple weeks ago,
I can tell ever since you've come back. You really
Beach bum. I'm a beach bum now.
Yeah.
Brah.
You want to live it, don't you?
Bruh. I just gave you the hang loose, bruh.
Tennessee
Bruh.
that's you've learned a lot from Tennessee Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right, brah.
That's right, bruh.
I love the story you said where Tennessee Mike jumped on his chopper
Yeah,
after a night of drinking.
gives you a hang loose and like George Jetson.
The electric scooter.
Yeah.
Whew. Welcome back from a brief break there.
I had to go boom boom.
I was going to say, when you came back downstairs, I noticed you were just drawing a thin bead of sweat amongst the forehead, a little red in the face, and you appeared to be walking about 8 pounds lighter.
Well, there's a dip in the hip and a glide in the stride right now, and I'm sure you could hear the toe tapping from upstairs as I.
Not only that, I went up there to refill my beverage,
Okay.
and the entire place was like a London fog, thick haze, and it just smelled of dookie and feces everywhere. Yeah.
It was a rough holiday weekend.
Bubs,
You looked into the Civil War, the one from the 1800s.
a little bit.
Yeah.
That word, those combination of words, I've seen it popping up now a lot more kind of on the news type people on X.
Do you think people just want to be the first one to call it?
Probably.
Hey, I said this back in March.
Probably. The funny thing, though, is that if you would have mentioned it 3 years ago, 4 years ago, those same people who are now using it now sort of in a civil war with like a question mark after it, those people, if you would have said it 3 or 4 years ago, would have said, hey, listen, I don't have time for this Alex Jones bullshit. Get out of my face. Now they're kind of going, wait a minute.
Alex Jones is our prophet.
Yeah.
Church of Jones. Who could do another Jones?
I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob.
Well, he did. He's got what? All these ramblings, and some of it sticks to the wall. It's true.
Some it does. Yeah, I think he does throw a lot of things at the wall.
Yeah, what sticks?
Yeah, plenty. There are some things that stick. There's plenty that slides right down and gets forgotten, though.
Yeah, but I hope there is never a civil war here.
I agree. I think
in the traditional sense.
I'm not a historian by any means, Bubs, but we need to really focus on this one, I think, in a show coming up in the future where you talk about maybe the beginnings of it, because it's not like it just happened overnight.
It wasn't Fort Sumner, and that was the only finite beginning point.
From what I understood, the way that this kind of took place, and we're going to deep dive this at another show.
We're going to deep dive the American Civil War.
We are. The beginnings of it.
We're going to have volume 1 through 7.
Yeah, maybe some theme music.
Yeah, maybe some.
I understand that basically what happened there was a Union garrison out there, and they were being resupplied, and the Confederates who had recently seceded, months prior, knew of this, and they didn't want these guys getting resupplied. And supposedly there was an agreement or something like that before the shots were fired between the Union and the Confederacy. And I guess they were still on somewhat good terms at that point. They had some sort of agreement that they weren't going to be fortifying the place or reinforcing it or anything, and they were. And the Confederates started eventually shelling the fort with cannon fire. They had more weapons than Fort Sumter had. For the next 36 hours, the guys that occupied the fort returned fire. They didn't have as much ammunition and they didn't have as many guns, but there were a lot of wooden structures inside the fort. And I guess the Confederates were using something called a hot shot, which I wasn't familiar with until I read about it. But hot shot is supposedly where you heat the cannonball in a furnace before you ram it down the barrel and fire it. Once that cannonball hits anything wood, it's going to start it on fire.
Yeah.
So the main reason that they started to consider retreating or evacuating, I guess, is because all the stuff was burning. And they had powder magazines and things like that within it. They eventually talked whoever this guy, this colonel or someone who was inside, a senator, I believe, took a rowboat out to the fort to get a message to him.
Wow.
Yeah, like a real act of bravery. I think he went out there and said, hey, would you consider evacuating? And because the guy didn't use the word surrender, the colonel kind of was okay with it. There were no casualties, even though this is basically the first kind of quote unquote battle of the Civil War. No one died, with the exception of some enlisted men died a few days after they said they were going to evacuate because they were going to do like 100 gun salute, like some sort of ceremonial thing.
Oh, like the removing of the
yeah,
flag.
like there's ceremony involved back then. And there was a accident in the salute or whatever where a gun blew up and this guy got killed.
Oh.
They consider that kind of one of the first casualties. However, there was some sort of engagement in Baltimore like a month before that rose the temperature up.
So it dust up on the streets?
I believe it was like guard detachments, or they probably were called militia back then, were sort of called up in some way to come and aid the Union. And they were walking or marching through Baltimore, and some civilians got into an engagement with them, and some civilians died, and I believe a few soldiers did as well. Now, that wasn't considered it wasn't
the first shot heard around
right.
the world.
But people consider those people as maybe the first kind of casualties. But then Sumter was, okay, this is the two armies kind of going at it back and forth. And
official battle.
Yeah, it's interesting how little things like that, though. Think of the Baltimore incident. That could realistically happen here now.
Yeah. Well, you have troops inside
subways.
The subways, right, in New York.
How is it any different is kind of my rhetorical question to you, I guess, Bubs. Right now, there's an occupying army inside public spaces in New York City.
Well, it's for safety.
It's always for safety at first.
It's for safety.
Yeah. It's always for safety until you're
deemed unsafe.
Take a shower here. It's for your own safety.
Yeah, it's for your own safety.
Right.
Yep. Come on over here.
Wash up. It's for your own safety.
No. Just face the wall.
Get into the boxcar. It's for your own safety.
It's for your safety and mine.
Yeah. Please remove your gold teeth and all your jewelry. It's for your own safety.
I didn't feel I wanted to do it, but I felt I owed it to them.
Owed it to them.
I owed it to them. But, how does the Civil War start? So I guess we could read for 10 years books on the American Civil War, different people's points of view. We could watch Burns's deal on the Civil War, which I did watch years ago when it came out. It was pretty interesting to watch. But I've been to Gettysburg, spent a whole day there.
Impressive.
What impressed me is the size of the area in which these battles happened. It was a 3-day event, and just enormity. I always had it, because you're just looking at renditions of it in a book, but how big it is. I actually walked around, and you can drive around in it.
No kidding.
It's huge.
Is it all like kind of pristinely kept, like a Arlington cemetery? I went to Arlington with you one time years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
But is it like that where it's like a national historic sort of
Yeah, they have
park
a museum,
or
and each wing of the museum has a focus on each day, the first, second, and third day of the battles. And 50-something thousand troops are lost.
Combined.
Total. Yeah, that's the entirety of Vietnam.
That's like Vietnam and Korea right there.
In 3 days.
Boy, man. Well, then again, who knows what the future might hold? Could you imagine something like that happening now?
No, I don't. I don't know. You wonder, like, how do civil wars start? You can look in history, and you take a third world nation in Africa or Central America, and civil wars seem to happen
All the time.
or civil unrest that turns into a coup, that turns into a change of power. I mean, the lucky thing about this country is that we have peaceful changes of power, right?
No,
Well, I
we
mean,
have.
well, I mean, there was one that, January 6th, it got a little rowdy.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know anything about that. I don't even know why you brought it up.
Well, there was some dispute on power change, right? And then
Right.
it became a little.
For the record, I was in Pennsylvania when.
I was in Harrisburg.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
By the time they were storming the Capitol, I was not in D.C.
But you mentioned those hot shots, where they're shooting those cannons warmed in furnaces. I was in Florida and we went to St. Augustine, which is the oldest fort in the United States.
Yeah.
Founded by the Spanish in 1561 or whatever year it was, 15 something. And they had a furnace.
For heating the cannonballs?
Heating the cannonballs to hit at ships that would come in that they wanted to shoot at.
I've seen, those relics and photographs of those furnaces. They're kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see, and you could see the, kind of the production layout of it.
Let me speculate on something if you don't mind, Bubs.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of asked, how would a civil war start nowadays? And I don't really know. I'm like everyone else. I don't think anyone knows. If they tell you they know, I think they're lying. It'd be like someone telling you they know what the stock market's going to do. But think of it this way. It more or less was in Baltimore an occupying military force kind of mixed in with civilians and not really doing anything, but, they're either marching through town or maybe trying to keep the peace, things like that.
But Baltimore and Maryland are, they're that's a state that's below the Mason-Dixon line,
Yeah.
which people don't realize.
And it's a weird, well, that's where basically D.C. is, I
Yeah.
mean, it's very strange out there. Like 1 minute you're in Maryland, the next minute you're in Virginia, the next minute you're in Delaware or something.
D.C., yeah. It's all close together, West Virginia.
But think of it like right now there's National Guard troops occupying the subway system.
And there's also National Guard troops on our border. State
There is.
troops defending a federal U.S. border.
I think if there was an incident that would break out into a so-called maybe civil conflict, I feel like it might happen in New York over the border. The border they're trying to stop. Well, they're not trying to stop anything from what it looks like.
No, they're not.
But they claim that that's what they're down there doing. I feel like if something went wrong in the New York City subway and a guardsman or guard woman were to hurt or kill or maim a civilian, which is possible, considering what happens in those tubes these days. Right now, there's a guy named Daniel Penny who's awaiting, trial for his life because he choked out some asshole that was fucking with people on the subway and accidentally killed him.
Mm-hmm.
That guy right now is going to be on trial for his life while illegal immigrants in New York City are raping and pillaging and being released. That makes Americans nervous. And having an occupying armed military contingent in a public transit sort of hub, I think is a recipe for disaster eventually.
Could be. It gets complacent and lazy.
Why can't your police do that job?
Yeah.
Because you won't let them.
So then
Someone is in charge there saying, no, please.
20-year-old National
hold back."
Guard without the training is supposed
Right.
to make these decisions.
Yeah.
Where some 10-year cop who works the area knows
Right.
what to do.
Yeah. I think it's a recipe for disaster. I also think that at this point, after what I saw this weekend with the Transgender Day of Visibility, I think right now they're deliberately trying to provoke normal, law-abiding, normally nonviolent people into doing something rash.
Well, then they could come down 10 times as hard for our safety.
Maybe they will between now and November.
I don't know. Doesn't seem like it, but maybe.
Oh, there's some time left. I think they'll, as the months set in and Trump continues along, they're probably going to panic at some point.
But isn't there kind of like just like for me personally, it's kind of just I don't want to use the term civil war, but kind of a soft withdrawal from what they're telling you and what they want you to watch and spend money on and endorse. So I just don't.
I do too.
And I just try to back out of some of that stuff and just, it's not like I'm going to be out on the streets protesting and leading a massive charge, but I don't have to participate in what they want me to believe in.
I agree.
So, I mean, that's just kind of a soft, I would, you use Minnesota as an example. the hinterlands, the Iron Range, the countryside is probably more Republican now, which is funny. And then you have Duluth, Rochester, St. Cloud, and the Twin Cities that are
Commie.
Well, the people that are voting,
The people that are running
the
it,
machine are basically commie Marxists.
Yeah.
So, people that live out this way, you just exist and you do your thing.
Until they push you hard enough, maybe. I don't know. I don't think that really happens amongst law-abiding people, though, until one of two things happens.
Food or your rights.
Or they're fucking with your children somehow.
Yeah, food or your children.
Either starving or they're trying to take away your kids or stealing them, or maybe, I don't know, Bubs, indoctrinating them and talking them into mutilating themselves while they're in school.
Yeah. Yeah, a kindergartner doesn't need to know of all that shit.
And we're definitely not starving yet. So maybe that's their play, is to, provoke, through indoctrinating and kind of quote unquote removing your children. I'm not sure what these fuckers are doing. I've said it before and I say it and I'll say it again. I don't think they have that much of an idea either.
No, they just react to
yeah,
opportunity.
These guys could fuck up a cup of black coffee.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they can, I heard a guy used to say they could fuck up a 2-car funeral.
That's another one. I'd never heard that one. Good one.
Yeah.
Whoever that guy was.
Well, the big ragu.
I don't know where it goes from here, Bubs, but it certainly has all kind of some eerie earmarks historically.
It could. And
I had no idea the Civil War kind of started in steps. You know what I mean? I thought
there's
it was
economic strife 10 years prior to that, where the South it's a lot of the Civil War is economic.
Yeah.
It's not just, all of a sudden the righteous Northerners wanted to save slavery, or prevent slavery, or get rid of slavery.
It's money.
It's money. It comes down to trade, money, routes, textiles, all sorts of stuff. I'm
guessing it probably comes down to that nowadays too.
Well, yeah. I think what happens if they go to a digital currency of some sort that's managed by a government agency, and then they can dictate what you're funding, where your money goes? Well, you're allotted alcohol. You're done for the year.
Sure.
So black markets will rise. And then that'll separate people even more.
Right. Scary.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. I hope that my alcohol allotment is generous.
Well, you'll have to grease the right state-sponsored commissar
Somalia?
To make sure that you get, well, I don't know, maybe, whatever.
Excuse me, Mohammed, am I allowed one more glass of red wine this evening?
No. Infidel.
Give me your ballot.
Yeah. But how does it start? How does it start in other countries?
I think it starts in a small step.
Well, what is a revolution based or a civil war, right? They just wanted to leave and be their own country.
Some small figurehead or something like that will get into an engagement. His buddies or something will, step it up to retaliate or something. It'll be like I don't know. Somebody's going to try to basically do damage or assassinate, not a political leader, but they'll try and grab a pundit.
Maybe.
They'll try and grab a Tucker Carlson.
Oh, that's possible.
Or a Nick Fuentes or someone like that who...
But compare it to the Russian Revolution of 1917, right? So you had
enlighten me, please.
Well, you had a czar, monarchy that was in charge of Russia, and then underneath you had a groundswell of the lower class, right? Lenin,
that were upset.
That were upset and wanted power and wanted fairness and wanted equality, equity. Probably wanted equity in some manner. But that was a revolution that overthrew a monarch.
And those were the Bolsheviks, I believe, right?
Yeah. And the bourgeoisie and the blah, 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 and the proletariat and blah, blah, blah. But my point is they were a monarch, which we kicked out in the 1700s.
So it can be done by grassroots type things.
Yeah, but our country is weird because we had elites kicking other elites out.
Yeah.
Where those are peasants being led by learned people to change a whole political system. But here we had the Civil War, where you had a country that had been established for at least 80 years, right? Roughly.
Yep.
Maybe 70 years. And then you have the South that wants to secede, but probably maintain. I mean, they decided their capital was in Richmond, right? Jefferson Davis was the president. They probably had a Senate and a House, something similar. So they were going to mirror the United States of America, but they wanted to create their own confederacy.
Yeah.
Based
Until they
probably-
ran out of food and fuel and things
well,
like that.
bodies, fuel, bullets and beans, and blah, 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 and some decisive battle plans that Grant decided we're just going to throw them to the meat grinder.
Yeah. Did you ever hear about some of the prisoner of war camps back in that?
God, it's just gotta
Dude, it's like
I think every day
it's
you
like
have to
worse than fucking Nazi shit.
figure out
like,
how to fucking escape. 'Cause they were so weak with disease and
supposedly
famine.
at first they
Yeah.
were very good about, for the first few years, trading people back and forth, like almost immediately,
Yeah,
where they would say, okay,
little parlay.
we're going to trade so-and-so for so-and-so under the agreement that he won't go back into his original unit until they all knew they were eventually going to go back and fight, but it was until we can get balance and like a few more people coming to our side.
Yeah, they had parlays and
Yeah.
agreements and truces, but they
And
were countrymen.
I think it was followed for the most part until, from what I read, the Union got upset that this was toward the last year or two of the Civil War. They heard that Confederate troops weren't treating the black prisoners. They were treating the black prisoners differently than the white prisoners.
I'm sure they were.
Boy, I don't know what that meant, but all I know is this. I've seen pictures of guys that were released from like white Southern prisoner of war camps, and these dudes were skeletons.
Yeah,
I can't imagine what I mean, I'm guessing they just didn't live.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So at that point, the Union cut off all prisoner sort of exchanges and said, we're not going to be trading anymore with you guys, and here's why. They said, sounds good to us. And at that point, the population size of these prisoner of war camps swelled.
Mm-hmm.
They figure there was probably somewhere in the 20 to 30,000s on each side that were starved or disease,
yeah.
whatever.
Man,
That to me is one of the more, and from what I've read, that really swayed a lot of public opinion too. Like once they saw these guys coming back from some of these camps, they went, whoa. That got a lot of people kind of moving in the direction of, can we end this bullshit one of these days here, please?
yeah.
I wouldn't want to be in one of those places. I think I'd rather die in the field, man.
Well, I think you just got to try to escape. You know, how do you get a couple hundred people at the camp to overrun the guards?
You know, you talk to Colonel Hogan and whoever else is there and say, excuse me, Colonel Hogan, would you mind putting down that camera, please? And
LeBeau. Was it LeBeau as the French guy?
was that what it was? Who was Richard Dawkins? He was the English guy, right?
He was the English guy.
Yeah.
Pilot or something.
Man, we've gotten a lot of mileage out of Bob Crane over the over our run, haven't we?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how he keeps rearing his head.
Did you just say Bob Crane is rearing?
rearing his head.
I think we should kind of going more deeper into the beginnings of this. I don't want to talk too much more about it because I feel like I'm ignorant to it and I don't want to give out the wrong information. But it's an interesting topic for me today because I think it's relevant. You know, there are respected, I guess, quote unquote, respected news people who are now using the words Civil War as sort of, hey, is this possibly on the docket in the future? Which I've never once heard in my entire life in the United States.
No.
If anyone ever said that 10, 20 years ago, you would have been laughed at and probably threatened to be institutionalized.
You know, maybe in the year 2000 when you had the hanging chads and an election, you know, sitting waiting for the Supreme Court to make the decision for Gore versus Bush, right? That was kind of a pivotal moment where it came down to a court deciding it.
People got a little bit inspired maybe on
Yeah.
the decision-making side of things going, hey, is there any way we could do this again?
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
You know, so there is some weird political shit that happened just in the last 20 years.
Bubs, like I said before, I got my popcorn. I'm ready to watch.
I think COVID, though, is the big tell-all. How they just got people locked down.
Dude,
businesses shut down. And we just rolled over.
We did it too.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind because a normal country, when something like that happens in China, when a pathogen is released,
yeah.
Day one,
Yeah.
the first thing you do then is go, hey, we're going to use every investigative power we have to figure out who the fuck did this and why. And it'll never happen again. Not one person on either side ever said that because they knew
We did it.
We fucking did it.
Yeah. Well, so what? The end thing is, though, look how they controlled us.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Yeah. How easy were you told at Menards to mask up when you walked in?
Yeah.
And then people, oh, I'm sorry.
Well, sure, I got to go get my fucking batteries or whatever.
Everybody was co-opted into saving grandma and grandpa.
I fell for it.
Yeah.
I felt guilty as hell going into my grandma's, old folks' place.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt guilty doing it.
Yeah.
I'll say this too. Most people on both sides deserve for that if they were elected officials, lawmakers, policymakers, leaders, and they didn't speak up and say, hey, wait a minute, why aren't we looking into who did this and why? Those people should be hung or hanged, I guess is the right word.
Well, it won't.
Well, I know it won't, but that's what should happen under this,
Yeah.
The framework of this Constitution.
Yeah.
Publicly. They should be, the public should be able to view that and say that, they bring their children to it and say, listen, Joey or whatever, this is what happens to people who betray the trust of those that they swore to serve.
Yeah. Well, you wonder, like now they make a big deal about AI and how that can influence media and everything in your life and steer you individually towards something. So what is AI going to look like with propaganda and political thought and support over the next 10 years?
It's kind of already going there.
Well, it's, AI, they talk about AI programs. Well, I'm sure it was started 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Before that, probably.
Yeah. So they could have some form. Now it's only going to, compound in its ability to move even quicker.
From what I've seen of it, at least what the public is consuming of it, I don't use Facebook. I haven't used it since probably 2009. I'm not interested in it as a platform. I thought it sucked back then. I recently saw some of the stuff that's on there, and I was amazed. It's a hellhole. I mean, so there are images, AI-generated images of like a guy or a girl with like 2 or 3 cats or something like that, and the cats are all happy and smiling, and it almost looks real. But it's just a little bit too out there. Like the cats look too happy. Yeah.
Something's off.
This is an AI-generated image. Yeah. And they're sitting there engaging with these AI images going, they're liking it, they're commenting on it. Not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. But these people are engaging with something that isn't real, which is terrifying to me.
Yeah.
And they don't know any better.
Well, there's going to be more of that.
Yeah. We need to unplug this shit and just go back to pen and paper, man.
Well, it ain't bad. It somehow worked for a long time.
Yeah, it somehow worked forever, didn't it?
Yeah, it somehow worked. We were able to take over the world with
pen and paper from now on.
Are you?
I want to get rid of this damn cell phone.
Yeah.
Is what I really want to do.
Yeah.
If I could.
Yeah, you wonder at what point in my life that I needed a cell phone so bad that I couldn't exist without it. I can tell you when it was. The first kid was getting born.
2002 is when I got my first one.
Yeah. I had a pager in the late 90s into the 2000s, and then I got a cell phone.
Were you selling weed?
No.
With the pager?
No. No.
I had a pager, years, like, I had a pager after I had a cell phone, but it was for, like, work purposes at one time, and it was more or less obsolete then.
But looking from your AOL dial-up 20-plus years ago to now.
The leap is massive. No one would have seen this coming, and no one did. And obviously the computer revolution, it's bigger than the industrial revolution, in my opinion. And right now the problem is that there's fucking nerds who you used to shove into lockers when you were in high school that now hold the reins with this shit. We should have never, ever, ever given the fucking nerds the keys to the gym. And we did it.
Yep.
I am ready to find every one of these guys, the Zuckerbergs, all of them.
The Gates.
The Jack Dorseys. I want these dudes to be on a perpetual line of getting swirlies for weeks.
It's some bizarre version of Hellraiser.
It's just waterboarding them with swirlies.
All right.
And dunking them. They'll come up for a breath. You'll maybe feed them once every couple hours or something like that. That's it.
Big
right.
wedgie.
You are sending these guys right back to fucking high school.
Yeah.
You guys no longer have access to the gym. How's that sound? Thank you. Please buy my T-shirt.
The revolution will not be televised?
No.
Is that what you're saying now?
That's about all I got. You know what? Like, at the end of the day, Bubs, kidding aside, we gave the keys to the gym to people that didn't know how to
dribble,
manage it. Yeah,
we've given it over.
I think it'll work itself out eventually, but it's going to be it's going to be a very hard road.
The average person's just out there striving, thriving, surviving, right?
Yeah, trying to get it through day to day.
Yeah. And then you don't have time for all this BS. Then when they actually pay attention to something, how are they being manipulated? Do they have time for critical thought and reason? Or do they got to make sure they get some diapers and, get this kid over here to the sporting event and then get to work? And
yeah, very, very true.
Right?
Those are the priorities we all have. We're all distracted with our day-to-day.
And then they distract you with bullshit that's happening on a national level.
Or they distract you with fake pictures of cats that, were made by AI or something like that. They distract you with Netflix and entertainment.
Yeah. Circus.
Bread and circus.
Bread and circus. It's ancient.
I'm done with the bread and circus, man.
Well, you just go to work. You do your thing. We work the cast. Spread some knowledge.
Yeah.
Pick it up. Lay it down. But we don't, we can't predict the future. You can only predict what you can try to do.
I'm trying to better myself in very, very small ways.
Yeah.
And I recommend everybody listening, try and do the same. Try and better yourself. Find some like-minded people.
Get in shape.
Share your experience. Yes, get in shape. Absolutely. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Keep healthy.
That's about, all I got. I'm looking forward to one of our next shows where we can get more into kind of the beginnings of the Civil War, but
yeah, we'll look into that.
Had a great time talking today, and I wanted to say one other thing at the end. I had noticed last night, Bubs, I was checking our Spotify stuff about our podcast, and we're getting close now to being sponsored, where they might run ads on the show.
Wow, it's big time.
Not super close,
big
but
time.
Somewhat close. We're well over halfway there.
Plus, we have those future possible investors from Florida that want to move the cast team down.
They do. They do. But the Spotify giant is about ready. I think we could maybe get there by late summer, maybe a little after 4th of July. So for everyone listening, if you are listening, thank you, first of all. Second of all, if you're going to spread the word, tell them to listen on Spotify. Subscribe to the, show on Spotify, and then listen to the entire show on Spotify.
Will they cut us a check then?
I'm guessing they will. And I think we could do an entire show, maybe even 2, about how we're going to spend our $13.
Yes.
I'm guessing that's about what it'll be.
It'll have to be 60-40 because you do more legwork.
Well,
I mean, I am the talent.
We'll figure. Yes, yeah, very much so.
Right.
Yeah.
And I hold back my personality.
Sometimes you do.
I don't give it the full.
Especially like today when you're kind of playing hurt. So
playing a little hurt, but I'm not battle.
You're still in the pocket.
Yeah, I'm in it, but I needed some more sleep.
What would you do with your $13, Bubs?
Well, how would we split $13?
No, let's say we each get $13.
Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe save it, put it towards the show, reinvest it.
That's way too smart. I think we should have a period of splurging.
One quart of beer.
Right. You know what I mean?
And a pack of smokes.
Where we then do the Behind the Music TV show where it was, once the money started rolling in, man, we couldn't stop the train.
Maybe buy a cigar.
A White Owl?
I don't know. An Ashton, right?
Macanudos?
Yeah. I don't know. I would probably put it towards the show. Equipment.
Maybe I would too.
Yeah. Reinvest.
I'd probably buy a couple beers with it though. Maybe like 2 beers.
Sure. Yes. That's your half of the money. You do with it what you want.
Either way, for everyone listening, please listen on Spotify if you can. That would help.
Our common man, our common woman, people with critical thought, common sense, get on Spotify. Help us earn that $13. It's like a public radio fundraiser right now.
Yeah. Smash the subscribe button.
Yeah, and get us that $13 so we can put it back towards the show.
We are going to have the best show for you guys if we ever get a Spotify ad check. We're going to have the greatest show of our lives. I promise you that. So keep that in mind, and please do everything Bubs just said because it's going to be funny. At that point, we will be professional podcasters.
Do you want to see us go to the next level?
If you do,
Yeah.
smash that subscribe button on Spotify.
Like us. Love us.
The only thing we're
Hate
on
us.
is really
Hate us.
Spotify. Yeah.
You can hate us too.
I'd love the haters, man.
Yeah. Listen and hate.
Yeah. I
Hate,
love my
hate,
haters.
hate.
Anything else you got to say, Bubs, on the old send-off here? Looking forward to another Civil War sort of discussion at some point where we bring a little more hardcore information.
You know what I might do this week? I might go to the local public library and see if I can check out a couple books.
Great.
See if I can get some knowledge.
The old school way.
Yeah. I like pictures.
I agree. At
Yeah,
least there, too, the
maps.
book, it's...
Battle
trust it.
plans, maps.
Can't trust the internet.
No.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. We're going to see you next time, probably about a week here. Take care.
Bubs is out.